Hi, I'm a Sprout main in Dandy's World Roblox, and I have seen a lot of people using probably the most overrated trinket in the game, Fancy Purse. Fancy Purse is Twisted Tegan's trinket, which you can unlock by having 100% research on Twisted Tegan on Uncommon Twisted. Now, Fancy Purse gives you 100 tapes at the beginning of each round you play. Not each floor, just the round, making it only helpful at the start of the game and not really later on. Usually, as Sprout, you would say, leave tapes and candies for me, as eating candies gives you 2 to 5 tapes depending on how rare they are. If you take every tape off the ground on each floor, you'll get about 35 to 50 tapes per floor. If you eat all of the candies too, that brings you to 40 to 60 tapes per floor. If you're in a good team with a good distractor, you shouldn't need to heal anyone except maybe the distractor until floor 7, maybe a bit earlier. But until you start getting around like the Dynamaps, until you start getting mains and more rares, you shouldn't really need to heal anyone. Under these circumstances, by floor 4, guaranteed, you will have enough tapes to heal someone, which is 100 tapes. As you progress more into the game, you will get rarer items on the ground, you will use heals, you will encounter more Twisteds, therefore getting you more tapes. Now, yes, it could be nice to have a heal right off the bat with Fancy Purse, giving you 100 tapes, but once that heal is used up, so is your trinket slot. You can't get those tapes back, and your Fancy Purse is useless for the rest of the game. Instead of Fancy Purse, the trinkets I usually run on Sprout are Dog Plush and Vimo or Dandy Plush. In this recording, I was doing a Dandy run, which means no buying from Dandy's elevator shop. So tapes are only useful for me, Sprout, or Tegan. But we didn't have a Tegan in this run, so everyone was leaving the tapes for me for the most part. Using Vimo instantly completes the first machine that you do every floor if the machine completion is under 50%. Completing a machine gives you 10 tapes, so whether you use the Vimo to do it or you just complete the machine on your own, you will get 10 tapes per machine. As Sprout for the first 5 or 6 floors, I either do 0 or 1 machines, sometimes 2 if my teammates aren't helping that much or if there's few of them. When you go into the elevator to go down to the next floor after you complete all the machines on the floor and you enter panic mode, you get 10 tapes for completing a floor. 10 tapes from finishing a floor, plus 10 tapes for a machine, plus probably 20 tapes you pick up off the floor. That's 40. Plus all the tapes you're going to get from the random candies lying around is 50 to 60. So, under all of these circumstances, by floor 2, you're probably going to have 100 tapes. If your teammates aren't leaving tapes for you or you don't do any machines, you're going to have 100 by floor 3 or 4. So you could use up a whole trinket slot to have your heal ready 2 or 3 floors earlier, or you could save your trinket slots and just pick up the tapes off of the floor. If you have a distractor who is new to distracting or maybe just not that good at it, but they still want to distract, they might get hit early on, especially if it's Twisted Toodles or Twisted Scraps/Goop, or if you get an early main or, Dandy if it's a Dandy run. If your distractor gets hit early on, that's the first person you would heal. What if it's floor 2 or 3 and you don't yet have 100 tapes? Well, usually teams have a backup distractor, even if they're not as experienced as the normal distractor, or maybe they just want to extract, but they could also distract if needed. If you don't have a backup distractor and you're a Sprout, Sprout is actually a very good choice as a backup distractor. With his 4-star movement speed and 5-star stamina, he can pretty easily outwalk the Twisteds while also burst sprinting, and you won't run out of stamina as quickly as if you were another toon like Yada. So you could distract a Sprout, or you could have the backup distractor distract until you have enough tapes to heal the main distractor. In summary, Fancy Purse is very overlooked, especially if you are taking all the tapes and items off the floor and doing machines. Even if you're distracting, you will still pick up items and tapes off the floor and get 10 tapes for completing the floor. You also get a couple tapes for encountering Twisteds, which is having them spot you. Of course, do whatever you want. Use Fancy Purse if you like it, but I personally prefer to use Dandy Plush or Vmote as well as Dog Plush for Sprout, because that's just a personal preference, and I just like to think very logically in these types of games. I see a lot of people using Fancy Purse. Probably 80% of Sprouts I see have Fancy Purse, which could help you later on, but if you play the game strategically and smart, then you will build up tapes very quickly. As you can see in this recording, on floor 3 I already have 130 tapes, plus the 10 tapes I get from this machine that I'm doing, and the 10 tapes that I get from going into the elevator. That's 150 tapes on floor 3. By floor 5 in this run, I already had over 200 tapes, which means that I could heal 2 people by floor 5. In my opinion, Fancy Purse is a waste of a trinket slot, but as I said, yeah, do whatever you want to, but here's just a quick explanation of why Fancy Purse just isn't that great. This is definitely not like my original idea of a video. I have watched a lot of videos covering this topic, and most of this information comes from like my experience and also other people's experiences playing Dandy's World. So yeah, that's my guide on tapes and also Sprout. Bye.